This is a short video to try to explain how sales tax and total cost, how they all come together when we talk about percentages. But before we do that, I do want to go over some rounding rules. It is really important when we talk about sales tax and total cost. Remember, we're talking about money, and we're talking about money. We should always have only two places past the decimal. So we need to cut it off right there. So cut it off on this one right here. Now you'll notice right on the other side of the blue line, I have a different number. Here I have a 4 and here I have an 8. Well, we have to treat these differently, and this is how we treat them. If that number that I just highlighted, which is just to the right of where we want to cut it off, if it's 5 or more, 5, 6, 7, 8, or 9, we're going to change or round up by 1. So as we can see, this one is that little bit more. So we need to round up 56 to be 0.57. And the reason we do that is because hopefully we can understand that either I can go up or I can stay the same. And we can see that 68 is closer to 70 than it is to 60, and that's why we round that up. The same is true for when it's 4 or less. So 4, 3, 2, 1, or 0 are the numbers in that column because we want it to stay the same. So let me get my pen here. And we want this to stay the same at 56 hundredths. And the reason we want to do that is because if we were to write down what numbers is 564 closer to, is it closer to 560 or is it closer to 570? And once again, you can see that it's closer to 560. So that's why these rounding rules work that way. So hopefully you remember that. That's like a 5th grade concept, but sometimes we forget. So let's get to talking about sales tax. Now, sales tax, we have to understand, is the amount of money that the government charges for use of that item at point of sale. And the most important words here we have to think about are these words, point of sale. Remember before we talked about our hat company and that we wanted to have a markup and all this other stuff. The only time sales tax can get added is whoever buys it last will pay for it. So we're going to look at two different situations where sales tax is involved. And I'm going to have my little calculator on the side here, and you might want to have yours as well. So here we go. Here's a story. It says you go to a lunch line and buy a sandwich for $2.50 and a milk for 75 cents with a sales tax of 7 25/100%. What is the total cost of your lunch? Well, first of all, we got to remember that we got to get a subtotal of our lunch. We're going to say, what are we adding up to get our lunch? Well, we bought a sandwich and we bought some milk. Now we know the cost of the sandwich happens to be $2.50 and the cost of the milk happens to be 75 cents. Now if I add these two numbers together, so far I'm at $3.25. That's my subtotal right there. That's what I have before sales tax is added. So what I want to do is I want to figure out how much is the sales tax. And our sales tax on this is going to be 7 25/100%. So right here. So I'm going to write that down here, 7.25%. And what we're going to do with this number is we're going to add it to our subtotal, because then at that point we are going to have our total cost. Remember the title of this, sales tax and total cost. So total cost includes everything. So let's see if we can start to find the percent for this particular problem. So we want to find 7.25% of $3.25. We have to remember our setup of percent is of. So we're going to drop that 7.25% here. And I want to find it of $3.25. So once I set this up, I'm going to cross multiply. So that's why I said have our calculators ready. 100 times x is 100x. And I'm going to use my calculator here. 7 25/100 times 3 25/100 is going to get me the number 23 5625. Now we have to do one more step. We need to divide by 100. So when I divide this number by 100, I find out that it is 0.235625. Now remember, when we're talking about money, I can only let it go to this position, only 2 decimal places in. So this 5 tells us that we need to round this 23 cents to 24 cents. So then what I'm going to do with this 24 cents, because all the thing that we've been figuring out here is the sales tax, right? So if I take this number for the sales tax, 24 cents, and I put this up here where my subtotal is, so 0.24. And then I find out that my lunch cost was actually $3.49. So included in the cost of my lunch was the sandwich and the milk, and that's how much the sales tax that I have to pay for the government to eat my sandwich and my milk. So as you can see, there's always this like added cost that's involved, and that's what I was talking about that comes from the government. Okay, let's make one a little more complicated. And you've gone to restaurants where you've sat down to eat. So let's take a look at this example. You go to a restaurant with your family to celebrate. Your food expense without sales tax is $74.50. So that's really important to know. So let's highlight that. Without sales tax, $74.50. Determine the sales tax, which is 7.25%, and how much tip you will leave your waiter, which is another 15%. He did a great job. And it's okay to round to the nearest dollar, but because who wants pennies in their tip? We don't leave pennies as a tip to people because it's really not a great deal. And what we're going to try and find out at the end of the day is what is the total cost of our dinner. That's what we're trying to find. So let's set up what we have. We know that we have a subtotal for our dinner. So we know the subtotal for our dinner was $74.50. What we're going to need is we're going to need to find how much is the tip, and we said that we're going to be approximately 15%. We're going to estimate that a little bit. And then we're also needing to find the sales tax, which is at 7.25%. That's going to be our sales tax. And then when we get all of these numbers together, we're going to add them all up, and we're going to end up then with our total cost, or what our bill would have reflected, how much we spent with our family. So that's what we're going to try and find. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to look for that tip. So we got to find 15% of $74.50. So we're going to set that up. Extend the page a little bit. Okay. So we're going to find 15% of $74.50. And we're going to cross multiply. Okay. And I will get 100x equals, and get my calculator out here, 15 times 74.5. And I get 1,117 and 5/10. Now we need to divide by 100, because if we didn't, I don't think we'd be leaving somebody $1,000 tip on a $90 cost of sales. That would be a great tip if you were the waiter. Okay, and then when we divide, we're going to get 11.175. Now remember, we talked about how tip is money, right? All of this is money. So we can say it's $11.17, but we don't like to leave cents when we leave a tip. So this is all figuring out the tip right here. We don't want to leave cents when we figure out the tip. You got to make a decision, $11 or $12. What we're going to do is we're going to leave our waiter $12. We liked him, so we're going to give him $12. We don't leave change for the tip. That's the only time you round up to the nearest dollar, is when you're talking about tip. Now let's do sales tax. Let's change my color here, and we're going to find sales tax. And we're going to do the exact same thing we just did, except instead of 15, I'm going to use 7.25%. So over 100, and I'm going to be trying to figure out how much that is of $74.50. So I'm going to cross multiply once again. I get 100x equals, and I'm bringing out my calculator. You can't see me. And make sure I put the right numbers in. And I get 540 and that. Okay. And then what I need to do then is divide both sides by 100. And when I do that, I will end it with 5.40125. And once again, we talk about how this is money, right? So we're going to cut it off. And this is the government's charge. So we're going to just see if we need to round it or anything. With this one right here, that means we're going to leave it alone at $5.40. So we're going to put $5.40 here on our sales tax. So now if we're going to look to see how much we spent all together on food, we spent $74.50. On the tip, we're going to tip them $12, and our sales tax is $5.40. So when I add these three things together, I end up with a total cost of $91.90. It's really important to know that there are no taxes on tips. So you want to always do them separately like I just did. You can't, hey, let's find out what the tip is and put it on that and then tax that. We don't tax tips. So that's a real important concept to remember. You have to do them separately, but then when you're done, add them all together. Hopefully this helps you to understand a little bit about sales tax and total cost.